Hello and welcome to Chapter 11. Today we're going to talk about authentic leadership. And when I read this over and thought about it, it seemed to me to have a lot in common with Chapter 10 on servant leadership. So as you go through this, kind of see, if you think that as well, or if you think it's different. It is one of the newest theories about leadership, which I think makes it very interesting. Focuses on leadership that's real and genuine. And this arose out of a time where followers and people in general had a need for this sort of leadership. We went through a climate, after 9/11, where we had a lot of corporate scandals and we had the economic downturn and kind of hard times. So I think people were looking for more authentic, moral type leadership. So this is a very complex issue, okay, and focuses on whether leadership is genuine. Okay, and as we said, kind of due to the social upheavals, it became increasingly popular and people were more interested, and we truly long for trustworthy leaders, especially after the corporate scandals that occurred in the 90s. You think back to Tyco and Enron and WorldCom and that sort of thing. So I think that kind of, got the interest going about this. So if we look at a definition, it's kind of complex. There are many different definitions surrounding this. The intrapersonal definition focuses on the leader and what goes on within the leader. It's based on their self-concept and how this relates to their behavior, and relies on sort of the background or what's the leader's story. So authentic leaders under this definition exhibit genuine leadership, lead from conviction, and they're original. They're not, fake in nature. The interpersonal definition is relational and created by leaders and followers together. So think of relationships, interpersonal, a reciprocal process, because leaders affect followers and followers affect leaders. So they're in this relationship together. The third definition is developmental, meaning that authentic leadership can be developed in a person. Okay, it can be nurtured and developed over time. Major life events, things like illness, death in one's family, change in career, things like that, help one develop their authentic leadership style. It's grounded in positive psychological qualities and strong ethics. Okay, and has 4 components: self-awareness, internalized moral perspective. So here again, we're emphasizing the ethical nature of leadership, as we saw in previous theories, transformational leadership. We saw this as well in the last chapter. So we're looking at that again, sort of centered around morals and ethics, balanced processing, and relational transparency. And we'll talk about those a little bit more in a minute. So 2 different kind of approaches to looking at authentic leadership. The first is practical, okay, and this is where we look at sort of a how-to approach. The second one's theoretical. So from the practical approach standpoint, we're going to look at how can authentic leadership be developed? What are the steps to becoming an authentic leader? So it's an action-centered model, and this was developed by Robert Terry. And Terry says that it's all about asking 2 main questions. Whenever something is wrong in an organization, we need to ask what is really, really going on and what are we going to do about it? So he developed this authentic action wheel to help leaders look at the 2 questions and come up with solutions. So this is the authentic action wheel as developed by Terry. And the first thing Terry says is you need to locate the problem by doing an assessment of employees and their organizational concerns. So we'll go out, we may survey the employees, we may interview people who are leaving the organization, doing exit interviews. Just some way of getting at what are the issues going on in the workplace. Okay, after that we identify it on the wheel, and then we select the appropriate response, and by doing that we have to explore other alternatives and explanations, and then ultimately select an appropriate response. Okay. So the other practical approach to leadership is the one by George. And George came up with a characteristic model. And this particular model describes the essential qualities that authentic leaders have, and then how people can develop these qualities to be an authentic leader. He said that leaders have to have a genuine desire to serve others, kind of like when we learned about servant leadership, the same sort of quality. George identified 5 characteristics of authentic leaders. Okay, he said that authentic leaders understand their purpose. They know what they're about. They know where they're going. They're very passionate and inspired about their life and their work. They have strong values. They understand their own values, and they behave toward others based on those values. They establish trusting relationships, strong relationships bound in high-quality communications. They have self-discipline. This is what gives them the determination to reach goals. And lastly, they act from the heart. They're compassionate, care about people and compassionate toward people. The theoretical definition of leadership, is listed here also in your book, is quite complex. And one of the major challenges about authentic leadership and the theoretical aspects is trying to come up with some sort of a definition that covers, what it really is from a theoretical point of view. So if you read this definition, you can see it's quite complex in nature. So from this, a basic model of authentic leadership was developed with 4 main components. The first being self-awareness. This is where the leader reflects on their core values, they identify emotions, they're aware of their feelings. This also has a lot to do with emotional intelligence, as you can imagine. They have an internalized moral perspective. They have moral standards guiding their behavior. They have balanced processing. They're able to look at information and analyze it, but they also go out and look to other people to provide information into the process to make a balanced decision. They have relational transparency. They're open and honest, and what they're doing is made obvious to others. They're not hiding things or having some sort of hidden agenda, when they're operating. Several factors influence authentic leadership. These are things that influence those 4 characteristics that we just talked about. So we have positive psychological capacities, and these are things that influence authentic leadership. So if there's confidence, self-efficacy, someone believes that they can actually do what they want to do. Hope, which is based on willpower and goal planning. Optimism, which is viewing the situation in a positive light and looking favorably at the future. Being optimistic, seeing the good that's coming. Being resilient, being able to adjust to bad situations, being able to recover from a bad situation, being resilient. Another factor is moral reasoning capacities, deciding, what's right and wrong, having ethics, promoting justice, looking at the greater good of the organization or the community. Here again, very similar to servant leadership. Critical life events also affect authentic leadership, and these can be things that are positive or negative, things like getting a promotion or moving locations or an illness or death in the family. These are sort of, life-changing events. And when someone has a life-changing event, it's often a reason for change. It causes change, or it makes change sort of occur naturally. So we look at these events because people attach their insights to their life experiences. Okay, and this is how people grow, from a personal standpoint. So some of the strengths of authentic leadership: it does fulfill society's need for trustworthy leadership. It kind of fills this void in this uncertain world where we have all these problems, political problems and unemployment and not being able to trust leaders. So it kind of fulfills that need. Provides broad guidelines for those that want to become an authentic leader. We talked about different ways that people can become an authentic leader, things they can do. It has a moral dimension. Okay, that's a strength. Unlike traits that only some people exhibit, everyone can learn to be more authentic. Okay, we can teach people as HRD professionals. We can train people and teach them how to be more authentic. We can measure this. There's an instrument, and it's in your book if you're interested in taking the ALQ to see how authentic your leadership style is. But there are some criticisms. This is a new theory, so it's still in the formative stages, so we're still trying to figure it out, so it's not fully statistically proven and substantiated. The moral component's not fully explained, so it's kind of unclear how higher values inform authentic leadership. The rationale for including positive psychological capacities has not clearly been explained. Okay, why are those things, the confidence and those things, part of it? The link between authentic leadership and positive outcomes is unclear. And it's also unclear whether this causes additional, organizational citizenship behavior. Does it cause, the organization to achieve goals? Okay, and more research needs to be done, and these things may very well be true, but more research needs to be done in order to justify and verify all this. So in application, we as HRD people, should look at this and realize that people do have the capacity to become authentic leaders, and we're able to train people and help them when they move into leadership positions. So that's, a big implication for us in particular. And leaders are shaped by these critical life events. So I think that's, the more you go through life and things happen and you're exposed to different things, you develop this authentic self after, time. So those were the main points for Chapter 11. I think this is an interesting concept, one, because it's so new, and two, I think because it does relate to the transformative and the servant leadership ideas we talked about previously. I hope you found some interesting thoughts and insights. Think about authentic leadership. Think of some authentic leaders. Have you ever worked for an authentic leader? I think that would be interesting. Thank you.